My daughter walked out on me on Christmas Day, ran off with her husband and in-laws on a trip I paid $17,000 for. I was expecting warmth, laughter, and togetherness. Instead, I came home to an empty house, and a carefully placed note that shattered everything. They'd planned it all. Behind my back. Had entire conversations mocking me and my generosity like I was just their personal ATM. So I cancelled everything. They called 76 times. But they didn't know that was only the beginning. Before we go on, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and drop a comment letting us know where you're tuning in from. I expected to walk in and smell bacon. Instead, I walked into silence. The kitchen table was bare except for one thing, a single piece of folded paper placed exactly where my coffee mug usually sat. My name was written on the front, in Nicole's neat, familiar handwriting. There were no voices, no sounds of wrapping paper being torn open, no chatter about our upcoming Aspen vacation. Just stillness. Hands trembling, I opened the note. Dad, we decided to go to Colorado without you. The family needs some time alone, just the four of us. We'll be back January 2nd. Don't worry about the cost. We know you can handle it. Thanks for everything. Love, Nicole. The paper slipped from my fingers. They were gone. On Christmas morning. After I'd spent nearly $17,000 planning what I thought would be a perfect family trip. Months of excited planning. Nicole hugging me, calling me the best dad ever. Now, nothing. I called out for them anyway. Nicole. Zachary. Howard. Kinsley. But only my voice echoed back. Their bedroom stood open, the beds hastily made, like they'd rushed out. Nicole's suitcase, usually tucked in the closet, was gone. Zachary's shaving kit, missing from the bathroom sink. Back in the kitchen, I fumbled for my phone. Nicole's number went straight to voicemail. Her upbeat recording felt like mockery now. Nicole, it's Dad. I found the note. I don't understand. Please call me. Zachary's phone, one ring, then voicemail. Howard's, nothing. Kinsley, same. Each silence cut deeper. This wasn't a spontaneous decision. They had plotted this. Together. I sank into my leather recliner, surrounded by unopened gifts I'd wrapped with care. The lights on the tree blinked steadily, glowing over gift tags written in my handwriting. To Nicole, with love from Dad. To Zachary, hope this year brings you all you wish for. 3 months earlier, I'd made the announcement over Sunday dinner. Nicole had been struggling post-divorce. Zachary's parents had never taken a real vacation. I wanted to give them something meaningful. Aspen for New Year's, I'd said, sliding brochures across the table. A week, all expenses paid. Skiing, spa, the works. Nicole threw her arms around me. Dad, this is perfect. You're amazing. Zachary shook my hand tight. Larry, this means the world to us. Howard and Kinsley? They cried. We never imagined seeing a place like that, Howard whispered. I'd felt proud. Useful. Like I was building a memory we'd all cherish. But now, I saw it for what it really was. The tears, the thank yous, they weren't about family. They were about access. They'd been calculating from the start. How much they could take, and how much of me they could stomach. I picked up our family photo from last Christmas. 5 smiling faces. Nicole's arm around my shoulder. Zachary giving me a thumbs up. Howard and Kinsley beaming like everything was perfect. Had they laughed about me after I went to bed? Had they counted the days until they could leave me behind, with my money still in their pockets? The Mercedes keys sat untouched on the counter. Nicole had left them behind. They'd taken an Uber to the airport. Not because they had to, but because they wanted me to know. This wasn't about logistics. It was about leaving me behind. My phone buzzed. A text from my neighbor. Merry Christmas, Larry! Hope you're having a great morning with the family. I stared at the screen until it went black. They'd made their choice. They thought I was just a lonely old man with deep pockets and no fight left in him. Someone who'd quietly absorb the betrayal and keep the money flowing. They were wrong. I walked into my office. Opened the drawer where I kept every document related to the trip: flight confirmations, resort details, payment receipts, all of it. Everything they needed for their dream vacation. Everything I still had power over. My finger hovered over the resort's number. That walk to my home office felt like crossing a bridge I couldn't return from. But I had 30 years of records in those cabinets. Meticulous. Organized. I pulled out the thick folder, Aspen Vacation 2024. And I smiled. The little Nell's number was still highlighted in yellow ink, a leftover from the weeks of planning. I'd spoken to them more times than I could count, discussing room upgrades, dietary preferences, special touches. But this call had a different purpose. Good morning, Little Nell Resort. This is Rebecca. How may I assist you today? This is Larry Hughes. My family checked in last night under the Hughes reservation. I need to make a few urgent changes. Oh yes, Mr. Hughes, she said brightly. They arrived safely. They seemed thrilled to be here. What would you like to adjust? I opened my binder to the detailed itinerary I'd spent weeks refining. Cancel the spa appointments for December 27th. All 5. A pause, then the sound of typing. Sir, those are premium bookings. Peak holiday season. There will be substantial cancellation charges. Cancel them. More clicking. Slower this time. Understood. Anything else? Yes. The private chef for New Year's Eve. Cancel that as well. I took a red pen and crossed out the $2,400 line item with finality. That's one of our most requested services. Would you prefer to reschedule? No. Cancel it. Very well. The ski lessons. Gone. The wine tasting, cancel that too. And the private shopping experience. Each cut felt sharp, precise, not just a change of plans, but a statement. A severing. Rebecca's voice faltered slightly. Sir, that accounts for nearly all scheduled activities. Is everything all right? Everything's just fine, I said. One last thing. Remove my credit card from the file. From now on, any extra charges, they'll cover themselves. I hung up before she could say another word. Then I turned to the filing cabinet and pulled out the bottom drawer. Years of records, neatly labeled and organized. I grabbed the folders marked education, wedding, real estate. The university file, $180,000 in tuition payments for Nicole's psychology degree. A degree she never used. I remembered her sobbing on graduation day, telling me she'd make me proud. Then came the wedding expenses, $65,000 for what she called her storybook day. The flowers. The venue. The band. I'd paid every cent, smiling through the whole thing. Then the apartment down payment, $85,000. I documented it as a formal loan. Not a gift. It was the smart thing to do, even with family. The paperwork sat in a manila folder, Zachary's signature bold and confident across the promissory note. Before I could close the drawer, my phone rang. Larry, Merry Christmas, my friend. Michael Richardson, my attorney for over 2 decades. The man who'd guided me through my business sale and retirement. Michael, I need legal counsel. Right now. He heard the tone in my voice. Paused. What's going on, Larry? You sound off. My family left for Aspen this morning, without me. After I paid for the entire trip. $17,000, Michael. Gone. They took it and left me alone on Christmas. He was quiet. Too quiet. You're serious? Dead serious. Now I want to know what my legal options are for recouping what I've loaned them over the years. Another long silence. Finally, well, the apartment loan paperwork is airtight. It's a callable note. 30-day notice. As for the credit cards you've been paying, you can shut those off immediately. But Larry, are you sure you want to do this now? On Christmas? Maybe there's room for mediation. They made their decision, Michael. Now I'm making mine. I ended the call. Walked to the fireproof safe. Pulled out everything I'd hoped never to touch again. Co-signed leases, guarantees, signed agreements made out of nothing but love and misplaced trust. They had no idea what I could do. When kindness is repaid with betrayal, you stop giving second chances. That's when my phone buzzed again. Nicole's name lit up the screen. I let it ring 3 times before answering. My voice was calm. Cold. Hello, Nicole. Her voice cracked with panic. Dad, what did you do? The resort's saying everything's cancelled. The spa, the chef, the activities. Everything. I cancelled them. A silence opened up between us. You can't just do that. We're already here. We planned our whole trip around those things. No, I said slowly. I planned this trip. You just made the choice to cut me out of it. Dad, please. Let me explain. Explain what? I said, fingers tapping the desk. That you coordinated leaving me behind on Christmas morning? That you took $17,000 of my money and decided I didn't belong? She started breathing faster, the desperation rising. We can talk about this when we're back. We'll sort it out. Will we? Like how you sorted out not telling me you were leaving? Dad, you're being unreasonable. No, I'm being pragmatic. Michael Richardson is finalizing the documents to call in the apartment loan. You and Zachary signed a contract. It gives me the right to demand repayment with 30 days' notice. The line went dead silent, except for her sharp, stunned breath. You wouldn't. I already did. The credit cards are being cancelled by noon. Any financial guarantees I've signed on your behalf, those are being revoked. I unlocked the safe and took out the thick packet of documents. Did you really think I kept no records of what I've done for you? Dad, please. Stop. Her voice cracked now. She was crying. We made a mistake. We should have talked to you. You made a decision. And now you face the outcome. What about Howard and Kinsley? They've never hurt you. They don't deserve this. They were part of it. They could have warned me. Could have spoken up. Instead, they chose their side. I flipped through the neatly organized paperwork, the pages firm with legal weight. Everyone made their choice. This is crazy. You're tearing everything apart over one mistake. One mistake? The words came out colder than I meant. This wasn't spur of the moment, Nicole. This was deliberate. You planned it. You discussed it. You booked flights behind my back. This wasn't carelessness, it was betrayal, premeditated. Suddenly, Zachary's voice jumped in. Larry, come on. This is getting out of hand. Can we talk about this like adults? Adults? I repeated. Adults don't abandon a family member on Christmas morning. Look, we just thought maybe you'd appreciate a little quiet time. You're always saying how hectic your social life is. Don't. My voice sliced through his attempt to justify it. Don't pretend you did me a favor. You left me behind because you didn't want me there. That's not. I have the receipts, Zachary. Every dollar I've spent on you. The apartment down payment. The credit cards. The car I co-signed. The wedding. Your parents' medical bills. All covered by me last year. Did you bring any of that up when you decided I wasn't welcome? Howard's voice came on, shaking. Larry, son, please. We didn't mean for it to go this way. We thought the kids had it under control. I'm not your son, Howard. Your son took my daughter and my money and left me alone on Christmas Day. Behind him, Kinsley began to cry. This is what we were trying to avoid, Nicole said through sobs. The guilt trips. The control. Everything always tied to money. A coldness settled inside me like frost creeping up a window. Control? I asked quietly. I gave you freedom. An education. A safe place to live. Support to chase your dreams. I didn't control you, I freed you. There were always strings. She whispered. Always expectations. There was one expectation. I said. Basic decency. But even that was too much. The hotel room on the other end of the line went still, the silence punctuated by quiet crying. What do you want, then? Zachary finally asked. Money? An apology? What'll fix this? Fix this? I looked over at the family portraits on my desk. They felt foreign now. Zachary, you can't repair betrayal. You only learn to live with it. So that's it, he snapped. You're going to blow everything up because your feelings got bruised? I gripped the phone tighter. It's not about feelings. It's about trust. And mine didn't get bruised, it got shattered. Amid the sniffling and frantic voices, I heard something else. A knock at their hotel room door. I ended the call. The silence afterward was unfamiliar, cavernous. The house felt different now. Bigger. Emptier. Like a museum of forgotten intentions. Around noon, I made a sandwich but barely touched it. I wandered through rooms still decked out for a Christmas that never happened. I felt like a stranger in a life I'd built myself. Nicole's bedroom door was ajar, just as she'd left it on Christmas Eve. I pushed it open. Photos lined the walls, smiling snapshots of a little girl with messy hair and bright eyes. Gymnastics medals. Prom. Family road trips. Back when everything seemed genuine. Had I just imagined that happiness? Something on her nightstand caught my attention. Her charging dock. Her phone, forgotten in the scramble to get to the airport. She'd clearly been using Howard's during the call. I picked it up. My thumb hesitated over the screen. This was a boundary. But they'd already obliterated every one that mattered. I entered her birthday, the passcode we picked out together years ago. It unlocked instantly. Dozens of notifications filled the screen. I tapped into a group chat, Girls' Weekend Planning. My stomach sank. Nicole, 2 weeks ago. Dad's insisting I'm coming to Aspen. Jessica. Ugh, yikes. Just tell him no. Nicole. You don't know my dad. He thinks paying for everything means he gets to tag along. Sarah. Maybe he'd enjoy it though. Nicole. Trust me. No. Zachary says he'll just complain about how expensive and loud everything is. My hand began to tremble. Jessica. What about his in-laws? Nicole. Howard and Kinsley are cool. They'll relax more without Dad around judging everything. Sarah. Plus you can actually party. Nicole. Exactly. This is our trip. Not some weird family holiday with a walking ATM. I sat down heavily on her bed, the phone shaking in my hand. A message from a week ago. Nicole. Update. We figured out the dad situation. Jessica. Spill. Nicole. We're leaving Christmas morning before he wakes up. Leave a note. Sarah. That's harsh. Nicole. He'll survive. Howard says they already feel weird taking more of his money anyway. Jessica. Wait, even the in-laws are involved? Nicole. They needed some convincing, but Zachary explained how Dad always makes it about him. I scrolled through more. Each message cut deeper than the last. Nicole. Sometimes I think Dad forgets we're grown-ups now. Sarah. At least he pays for everything. Nicole. Yeah, silver lining of having an overbearing rich dad. Jessica. Must be nice having a father who spoils you. Nicole. Spoiling comes with strings. He expects gratitude and quality time. Sarah. Ugh, emotional debt. I remembered that dinner 2 weeks ago. Zachary had floated it like a casual idea. Larry, maybe it'd be nice if this time it was just the younger generation going. He already knew the plan. Nicole had jumped in right away. Dad, you'd probably be more comfortable staying home anyway. You always say how much you enjoy your quiet time to read. I laughed, assuming it was just a joke, but I'd been counting down the days to this trip. Looking forward to a rare moment of togetherness. The awkward silence that followed made sense now. The decision had already been made. Howard and Kinsley avoided eye contact that day, because they already knew. Everyone knew. Except me. 3 days ago. Nicole, final check. Everyone's tickets good? Jessica, I can't believe you're really doing this. Nicole, it's for the best. He'll pout for a week and then get over it. Sarah, and what if he doesn't? Nicole, what's he going to do, cut me off? He's said that before and never followed through. Jessica, maybe because he loves you. Nicole, maybe. Or maybe he needs us more than we need him. I closed the app and stared at the blank screen, catching a reflection that looked older, wearier, and far lonelier than I remembered. This wasn't just exclusion. It was ridicule. My generosity wasn't valued, it was taken for granted. My desire to stay connected wasn't welcomed, it was merely endured. The phone buzzed again with a new message. Nicole, emergency. Dad went nuclear. Cancelled everything and threatened to call in the apartment loan. Jessica, wait, seriously? Nicole, yeah? He means it this time. We might have actually messed this up. I set the phone back down on the charging station and walked to my office. My footsteps echoed through the now too quiet house. They thought they had me figured out. Predictable. Soft. All bark, no bite. A man who threw around threats and smoothed over disappointment with his wallet. They were about to find out how wrong they were. My office had always been my retreat. Mahogany desk, meticulously labeled filing drawers, every paper in its proper place. Tonight, it felt like a command center. I opened my laptop and launched a blank spreadsheet. Muscle memory from decades running my construction company kicked in. I set the headers, date, category, amount, documentation, status, legal type. I started with Nicole's college education. Each semester's tuition. Dorm fees. Books. $45,000 per year. 4 years. $180,000. Next. The wedding. The venue she insisted on. The designer dress that cost more than some used cars. The honeymoon to Bora Bora. We'll only do this once, Dad. Total, $65,000. Then the apartment down payment. That one, I had the foresight to structure as a formal loan, thanks to Michael's advice. $85,000. Backed by a promissory note signed by Nicole and Zachary. Interest set below market, but still binding. Vehicles followed. Nicole's BMW, $45,000. Zachary's truck, $35,000. Both loans co-signed because their credit wasn't strong enough. Then the monthly financial support. Over the past 3 years, I averaged $2,500 a month. Help with rent, groceries, insurance, surprise expenses. Another $90,000. When I totaled the figures, I leaned back in my chair. $500,000. $500,000 in support. All tracked. All documented. And this was the thanks I got: silence, lies, and abandonment. I grabbed my phone and called Michael. Larry, how are you holding up? I need an emergency consult. Tonight, if possible. It's Christmas. I've just tallied over $500,000 in family support from the last 10 years. I need to know what legal tools that gives me. A pause on the line. I'll meet you at my office by 5:30. Let me call David Cruz. You'll want tax implications looked at, too. The drive downtown felt dreamlike. Christmas lights sparkled over deserted sidewalks. Meanwhile, I was heading to a meeting that would redefine everything. Michael's building was dark except for the glow on the 20th floor. He met me at the elevator, dressed not in his usual suit, but jeans and a sweater. Larry, in over 2 decades of working with you, I've never seen you like this. In over 2 decades, I've never had the people I love turn on me like this. David Cruz joined by video from his home office. A Christmas tree glowed behind him, wrapping paper scattered around his chair. Larry, he greeted. Michael filled me in. You're considering serious asset recovery? I spread the documents across the conference table. Tell me what I'm allowed to do. Michael started with the apartment loan. This is solid. Structured cleanly, legally enforceable. 30 days written notice is all you need. Below market interest is documented as part of family aid. Totally legitimate. Next, the credit cards. You're the primary account holder. They're just authorized users. You can revoke access immediately. Any outstanding balance they've run up becomes payable to you on demand. David leaned in on the screen. From a tax standpoint, you've handled monthly assistance as gifts under the annual exclusion cap. That was smart. But the big-ticket items, college, the wedding, the apartment, those can legally qualify as debts if trust has been broken. He paused. What about the vehicles? You're listed as guarantor on both. Michael added. If they default, you can demand full repayment immediately or go through the lender to repossess. A cool sense of clarity settled in my chest. So legally, they've got no protection? Michael adjusted his glasses. Larry, they don't have independent income, they don't own any assets, and they've allowed themselves to become entirely reliant on your financial support. Legally, you hold every card. David nodded. The emotional manipulation aspect is harder to litigate, but the digital trail shows calculated deception while accepting monetary benefits. That won't sit well in court. And don't forget constructive trust, he added. Funds received under false pretenses can be recovered, even if they were originally considered gifts. I looked at them both. What's the timeline to act? Michael reached for his planner. Credit cards can be shut off tonight. Apartment loan notice can be delivered tomorrow. They'll have 30 days from the date of receipt. Vehicle loans? One missed payment, and they're in breach. And if they push back? I asked. Then we proceed with claims, breach of fiduciary trust, unjust enrichment, and fraudulent acceptance of support. With the evidence you've collected, it's a clean case. I gathered the stack of documents. Each sheet no longer just a financial transaction, but a receipt for years of care freely given and quietly betrayed. Draft everything. Don't hold back. Larry, Michael said slowly, once we go down this path. They began at the moment they decided to leave me behind and still take my money. I said flatly. I'm just bringing it to a conclusion. Michael gave a silent nod and opened his laptop. I'll have drafts ready by morning. Outside, Christmas lights still blinked across the neighborhood. But they didn't feel festive anymore. They looked like markers at a crime scene. I opened my banking app and began Phase 1. 4 days of preparation turned my home into a stronghold of evidence. Legal documents sorted, financial records cross-checked, preliminary agreements printed and signed. At 6:30 p.m. on December 29th, I stood by the living room window and watched Zachary's truck pull into the driveway. They looked exactly as I imagined. Rushed, wrinkled clothes. Nicole's eyes swollen from crying. Howard and Kinsley lingering in the background like they didn't want to be there. 4 nights in a roadside motel had erased their holiday glow. I opened the front door before they could knock. Larry, Zachary said, voice stiff with forced control, like he thought he could bluff his way out of this. Come in. I stepped aside. No hug. No warmth. Not like before. In the living room, Nicole rushed toward me, already crying. Daddy, I'm so sorry. This just got out of hand. Sit down, Nicole. She stopped in place, startled by my tone. Even Zachary blinked in surprise at the coldness. Howard cleared his throat. Larry, maybe we should all calm down. Families argue. This wasn't a disagreement, I said, still standing. This was a planned choice. A choice to leave me behind while continuing to take my money. Kinsley dabbed her eyes with a tissue. We thought you'd like the peace and quiet. It was meant to be considerate. Considerate would have meant asking. What you did was cut me out, while making sure I paid for the trip you didn't want me on. Nicole's crying intensified. Dad, please. That's not how it was. We thought you'd enjoy having the house to yourself. Stop. The words sliced through her performance like a knife. I've spent the last 4 days reviewing what this family relationship has cost me, not emotionally, but financially. The numbers were enlightening. Zachary leaned forward, hostile. What's that supposed to mean? I walked to my desk and picked up the folder Michael had prepared. It means I've tracked every financial exchange between us for the last 10 years. $515,000. Fully documented. The room fell silent, except for the sharp breath Kinsley sucked in. Your education, Nicole. Your wedding. The apartment down payment, which, by the way, was a legally binding loan, not a gift, though you seem to have forgotten that part. Nicole's face drained of color. A loan? What loan? The one you and Zachary signed. $85,000, below market interest. Promissory note, notarized and structured by Michael Richardson to protect both sides. I opened the folder and showed the original paperwork. The terms are clear. The loan is callable with 30 days written notice. You wouldn't, she whispered. I already did. Certified letter went out yesterday. Zachary jumped to his feet. This is crazy. You're ruining our lives over some bruised pride? I'm not ruining anything. I'm enforcing legal obligations. I flipped to the next section. Your credit cards are canceled as of January 1st. Car loan guarantees are under review, and may be revoked pending performance. Dad, stop. Nicole said, her voice cracking, now laced with real fear. We'll lose everything. You should have thought about that before you decided I wasn't worth including. Howard stood shakily. Larry, come on, surely we can find a compromise. Families don't solve things by lawyering up. You're right, Howard, I replied calmly. Families should resolve issues with openness and respect. But when someone treats family like a business opportunity, taking money without offering anything in return, then they shouldn't be surprised when they're treated like a business partner. Anything in return? Zachary snapped, his face flushed. We're your family. Isn't that enough? Family doesn't leave you behind on Christmas while still draining your bank account. Kinsley was in tears now. We never meant to hurt you. We thought. You thought I was a bottomless wallet with no emotions. You thought wrong. I closed the folder with finality. Nicole slumped back into the couch, the reality of the situation finally sinking in. How long do we have? She asked quietly. 30 days from the date the apartment loan notice was delivered. The credit cards are already shut down. The car payments fall solely on you now. Her voice dropped to a whisper. We can't afford this on our own. Then maybe you should have thought of that before making me feel like I didn't belong. Zachary stormed to the window, fists clenched. This feels like extortion. No. This is just business, something you should understand considering how quickly you turned our relationship into a transaction. Nicole looked up at me, desperation finally overtaking the performative sadness. What do you want? An apology? Us on our knees? Just tell me what fixes this. I held her gaze. You don't fix betrayal with apologies. You live with the outcome. So that's it. Zachary turned, staring me down. You're going to destroy us financially over a trip you weren't invited to? I'm simply treating you the way you treated me, as someone whose feelings were disposable. The only sound was the steady ticking of the grandfather clock. Eventually, Zachary straightened up and spoke more quietly. We need time to figure this out. You've got exactly the time outlined in the notices. Not a minute beyond. They left, shoulders hunched, backs heavy with consequence. I knew this wouldn't be the last I'd hear from them. But I slept better that night than I had in months. The next morning arrived with a sense of methodical clarity. My desk was arranged with legal to-do lists, documentation logs, and timelines. At precisely 8 a.m., I made the first call. Michael, it's Larry. Time to initiate the lawsuit on the apartment loan. You're certain? He asked. Once we file, there's no pulling back without looking weak. File it. $85,000 plus accrued interest and legal expenses. Pursue full recovery. I'll submit the filing within the hour. Credit cards next? Calling the bank now. First National answered on the second ring. Mr. Hughes, how can we assist you today? I need Nicole Hughes removed as an authorized user from all of my credit cards. Effective immediately. Certainly, sir. May I ask for a reason? Business decision. Family account restructuring. We'll process the removal within 24 hours. Outstanding balances will remain your responsibility. Understood. Chase Auto Finance took longer. Mr. Hughes, you're calling regarding the guarantee on the Zachary Thompson vehicle loan? Correct. I want my guarantee revoked. He'll need to qualify on his own or find another cosigner. If not, the loan becomes immediately callable. That's now his responsibility. By 10 a.m., every legal action was underway. It felt clean. Professional. Not emotional, just cause and effect. At 10:30, the doorbell rang. Nicole stood on the porch, clutching a manila envelope, mascara streaking down her cheeks. Daddy, my card got declined at the grocery store. The bank said you canceled my access. I did. You were an authorized user. The cards were mine. She pushed past me into the living room and emptied the envelope, family photos spilling across the coffee table. Look at these. You teaching me to ride a bike. Graduation day. You walking me down the aisle. Doesn't any of that matter? I remember paying for all of those days. How can you be so heartless? I'm your daughter. And daughters don't conspire to exclude their fathers while spending their money. Zachary appeared in the doorway, phone in hand. Yeah. No, I understand. Okay. He hung up, his jaw tight. The bank's calling in the loan. They said without your guarantee, I don't qualify to refinance. They'll repossess. Then you shouldn't have gambled with my trust. Howard and Kinsley trailed in behind him, visibly uncomfortable. Larry. Howard started gently. Surely this can be resolved. We've all said things in the heat of the moment. This isn't about words. It's about actions. Willful, coordinated financial exploitation. Nicole was sobbing now. What do you want from us? Begging? Embarrassment? Just tell me what will fix this. You can't fix betrayal. You can only face the consequences. Zachary stepped closer, lowering his voice. Larry, you live alone in this big house. People your age, accidents happen. I pulled out my phone and hit record. Could you repeat that, Zachary? My attorney will want to hear your intimidation tactics firsthand. He blanched. I wasn't threatening you. You implied that my age makes me an easy target. That's called elder intimidation, and it's a criminal offense. Nicole grabbed his arm. Stop talking. You're making everything worse. Worse than being financially gutted by your own family? I asked, staring Zachary down. I have cameras recording this entire exchange. I have audio, documents, witnesses. Every step of this process is being legally documented. Kinsley wept softly. This isn't how families treat each other, Larry. You're tearing down something that took decades to build. I'm not tearing anything down. I just uncovered what was already broken. You were part of the plan to cut me out while keeping my money. That's what destroyed our relationship. We thought. You thought I was an ATM with no emotions. Zachary turned toward the window, knuckles white. Fine. If you want to play hardball, two can play at this. This isn't a game, I replied coolly. This is debt recovery. You owe $85,000 plus interest. The only question now is whether you pay it voluntarily, or through court-ordered seizure. We'll see, Zachary muttered. Nicole fumbled to collect the scattered photographs, her hands visibly trembling. You have 30 days. 30 days from when you were served, I clarified. Which was yesterday. As they neared the front door, Zachary paused. He looked back at me, a calculating glint in his eye. You want to know what your real problem is, Larry? You think money equals strength. But real strength comes from people who love you. And you just burned that bridge. I watched them walk to their truck. Zachary's hands shook as he turned the key in the ignition. They still didn't get it. I hadn't burned anything. I'd simply stopped financing my own betrayal. New Year's Day came quietly, wrapped in the kind of peace I hadn't felt in a long time. The gears of legal justice turned steadily, predictably. I spent the afternoon in my study, the fire gently crackling, a book open in my lap. Every now and then, I looked up at the falling snow through the frosted windowpane. At 2 p.m., the phone rang. "Larry, it's Margaret." Her voice was more strained than usual. "I need to talk to you about something concerning." Margaret and I had been close since childhood, our bond built on shared family history, mutual respect, and plain-spoken honesty. If she sounded worried, I listened. "What's going on?" "I've received several calls today, Nicole, Zachary, even Howard and Kinsley. All within a couple of hours. And they're all saying, well, the same types of things. Honestly, it doesn't sound like the Larry I've known for 4 decades. I placed my book on the side table and gave her my full attention. "What exactly are they saying?" "They're painting a picture of someone who's grown paranoid since retiring." Nicole was in tears. "Said you've turned on your family over money. Zachary told me he thinks you're not in your right mind and need help." Their coordination was obvious. Their strategy, while disturbing, was impressively polished. "And what do you make of it?" I asked calmly. "That's why I'm calling. For people calling me back to back with matching scripts? That's not a family reaching out in concern. That's a planned campaign." Margaret, with her marketing background, could smell narrative manipulation from a mile away. "They're trying to discredit you, Larry," she continued. "They're shaping the narrative, casting you as unstable and themselves as loving children trying to intervene before things go too far." "What exactly did they say?" I asked, already bracing for it. "Nicole said you've become obsessed with money, and that you're lashing out because she wanted independence. Zachary insisted you were making rash decisions and exhibiting signs of cognitive decline. Howard added that the whole family's worried about your state of mind." Each falsehood landed like a precise strike, intentional, rehearsed. They weren't just defending themselves anymore. They were undermining me to protect their version of the story. "Margaret, are you aware of what actually triggered all of this?" "Only their version, which is why I'm asking for yours." So I walked her through the timeline. 15 minutes of fact, no emotion, no exaggeration. I explained the vacation, the Christmas morning abandonment, the note they left behind, their financial dependence, and my subsequent legal actions in response. "That's a very different story than what they gave me," she said slowly. "They made it sound like you just suddenly snapped because the family wanted to do their own thing for the holidays. They left me on Christmas morning," I said, "after I paid over $17,000 for their vacation. And when I enforced repayment for their loans and credit lines, they escalated, from manipulation to threats to now reputational sabotage." There was a pause. Then, "Larry, I'm going to ask you something directly." I appreciated the honesty. "Go ahead. Are you experiencing any mental fog? Any changes in your judgment, memory, or decision-making?" The question didn't offend me. It was the right question from someone trying to discern truth in a tangled web. "My attorney, Michael Richardson, has overseen all legal filings. My accountant, David Cruz, audited every cent. Both can vouch for my mental clarity. This isn't irrational behavior. It's measured accountability for deliberate wrongdoing." "That sounds like the Larry I've always known," she said. "The man who built a company from the ground up and sold it successfully doesn't suddenly unravel over a missed holiday dinner. I'm grateful you reached out, Margaret. Truly. How many others do you think they've called? Probably working their way through the entire extended family list. I'd bet on Robert, Janet, even the neighbors being next." They weren't just playing defense anymore. They were going on offense, targeting my character to force me into retreat. It was larger than I'd expected. A full-scale attempt to assassinate my reputation before the courts could rule in my favor. "Would you be willing to help me keep track of their false accusations?" "Of course," Margaret replied without hesitation. "What they're doing is character defamation. And it won't work on anyone who truly knows you." After we ended the call, I opened a blank document on my laptop. If they wanted to wage a war of perception, they'd get the same structured, methodical response I'd used when addressing their financial deceit. They had just shifted from threats against my well-being to an attack on my integrity. And that was a far graver error. As evening settled in, I found a certain satisfaction in the process of documentation. I'd spent the day assembling a comprehensive response, a precise timeline of events, references from professionals, personal testimonials. Margaret had given a thorough account of the orchestrated phone campaign. At 7:30 p.m., I was reading in the living room when I noticed headlights sweeping across the snow outside. Zachary's truck tore into my driveway, the tires screeching slightly. Through the window, I watched him slam the truck door and storm toward the house, his posture radiating desperation. Without moving from my chair, I pressed a discreet button on the wall panel beside me. My home's security system came online. 6 cameras covering every angle of the property, all streaming directly to encrypted cloud storage. Decades in the construction business had taught me one thing above all: document every conflict. The pounding at the door wasn't a knock, it was an ultimatum. "Open the door, Larry. We need to talk." I opened it, but didn't step aside. I stayed in the doorway, holding the boundary. "Good evening, Zachary." "Cut the polite act," he growled, brushing past me into the living room, pacing with twitchy, hostile energy. "You think you're going to tear this family apart with your little lawsuits? I'm simply pursuing repayment of verified debts through legal means." His voice rose, trembling on the edge of rage. "You're tearing people's lives apart over some grudge. I'm exercising legal rights tied to documented loans." He stepped closer, attempting to tower over me, using his age and size as leverage. "You know what happens to bitter old men living alone in big houses like this." I looked him in the eye without blinking. "What happens, Zachary? Break-ins. Accidents. Emergencies where no one hears you calling for help." His voice dipped into something calm and chilling. "That expensive alarm system of yours won't stop a medical issue, or teach you what it means to betray your own blood. Is that a threat?" I asked, voice steady. "I'm giving you a reality check," he said, scanning the room like he owned it. "You're 62. You live alone. No family left. Keep pushing this legal stuff, and things might get harder for you." I nodded slowly, as though weighing his words. "That's an interesting viewpoint. Let me show you something." Without waiting for a response, I walked toward my home office. He followed, probably thinking he'd cowed me into backing off. "The thing about living alone in a large house," I said, opening the office door, "is you can invest in decent security." 6 monitors lined the wall, each displaying a live feed from different parts of the property. One showed Zachary's truck pulling in. Another had captured every moment of our exchange, in full HD. His expression shifted instantly, eyes wide, blood draining from his face as he saw himself on the screen, mid-threat. "You can't record me without my consent. This is my home," I replied, pointing to the timestamps. "Anyone who enters is subject to recording. And everything is backed up to the cloud." I gestured toward the footage. "My attorney, Michael Richardson, automatically receives copies of all video files." Zachary's bravado crumbled into panic. "You need to delete that." "I don't need to do anything, except turn this over to the police when a senior citizen is threatened in his own residence." "Delete it, Larry. I didn't mean any of that." "What part exactly?" I asked, picking up my phone. "The part about medical emergencies? About home invasions? Or the part where I need to learn a lesson about family loyalty? Don't call anyone. This is crazy." "In Michigan," I said, already dialing, "threatening an elder is a criminal offense. Especially with recorded proof. 911, what's your emergency?" "This is Larry Hughes, at 847 Maple Ridge Drive," I said calmly. "I need an officer dispatched for criminal threats made by a family member. I'm 62 years old. The suspect is still here, and he's made specific threats about accidents and home intrusions." Zachary's panic was full-blown now. Hang up, Larry. I'm leaving, okay? I'm leaving. Sir, the dispatcher said. Are you in immediate danger? He's agitated, but I have him on camera. The threats are recorded. Audio and video. Officers are en route. Stay on the line. 2 patrol cars pulled up within 8 minutes. I met them at the door with screenshots and printed transcripts of the conversation. Michigan law takes crimes against older adults seriously. Mr. Thompson, one officer said, as they placed cuffs around his wrists. You're under arrest for intimidation and threatening an elder. The lead officer stepped forward, cuffs in hand. Zachary's hands trembled as they snapped them on. This is insane. He's my father-in-law, he protested. That actually makes it worse, the officer replied calmly. Being family doesn't excuse threats or intimidation. As they escorted him toward the cruiser, Zachary glanced back, desperation flickering in his eyes. You're making a mistake, Larry. This won't end how you think it will. I watched his taillights fade down the road, then called Michael Richardson to update him on this latest turn. The court documents arrived on a snow-covered Tuesday morning, delivered by Michael himself, who wore the quiet satisfaction of a man who had orchestrated a flawless legal outcome. I laid the papers out across the dining room table like a strategist reviewing a decisive campaign victory. Full judgment in your favor, Michael announced, setting down his briefcase. $85,000 recouped from the apartment sale. All outstanding debts officially reassigned to the original borrowers. Criminal proceedings are moving ahead separately. The numbers were gratifying, not just because I'd recovered every cent, but because justice had unfolded precisely within the framework of the law. Zachary's professional future was essentially over. With a felony on record for threatening a senior, his chances of securing any meaningful employment were gone. Most employers don't overlook that in a background check. I flipped through the finalized documents for the apartment. Sold in under a week to an all-cash buyer. Real estate doesn't care about family melodrama, just clear titles and market value. Car repossession finalized yesterday, Michael added. Once the co-signer guarantee was legally revoked, the lender moved fast. They're riding the bus now. From my network of local contacts, I'd learned they were all crammed into Howard and Kinsley's one-bedroom unit. 5 adults jammed into space meant for 2. Nicole had picked up retail hours, her first job since college. Zachary remained unemployed. At noon, I watched them walk up my driveway. They moved differently now. Shoulders lowered, eyes down, bodies heavy with the weight of consequence. Nicole led them. Her face was already blotched with tears before she even reached the door. I opened it without a word and stepped aside. Dad, she choked out, voice unsteady. We need to talk. They settled in the living room like petitioners awaiting judgment. Howard and Kinsley looked exhausted, worn thin by stress and confinement. Zachary didn't meet my gaze. I'm listening. We were wrong, Nicole blurted, breathless with urgency. Completely wrong, about everything. The vacation. The way we treated your generosity. Leaving you behind. All of it. Zachary lifted his eyes with effort. I made unforgivable choices, Larry. The threats, the language I used. I was scared and stupid. You helped us, and I repaid you with fear. Howard cleared his throat. Larry, I'm your son, but we can't keep this up. Kinsley and I, we're just too old to support everyone. Our retirement doesn't stretch that far. We're still family, Kinsley added softly. Even after everything, we're still your family. I looked at each of them carefully, searching for the manipulation I'd seen before, but there was none. Their desperation had peeled away every layer of performance. This was what real remorse looked like. Tell me how it was planned, I said. Nicole flinched. Planned? The Christmas trip. How long had you been talking about leaving me out? Who brought it up first? When did the decision become coordinated? The room went quiet. Accusation hung in the air like static. Nicole looked at Zachary. He looked at his parents. Then they all looked back at her. It wasn't. She started, then stopped. Zachary brought it up, I think 3 weeks before Christmas. Said it might be more relaxing, without you. And you agreed? I did, she said, voice barely audible. Because I wanted one vacation where I didn't feel like I had to constantly say thank you. Where I could just be. Without feeling like I owed my whole life to someone else. Her honesty hit harder than any excuse could have. Howard Kinsley, your role? Howard's hands were unsteady. We knew it wasn't right. But Zachary said you'd probably appreciate the peace and quiet. That you wouldn't take it personally. So you all worked together to leave me alone on Christmas morning, after I'd spent $17,000 on the trip? Yes. Nicole's voice cracked. We planned it. Discussed it in advance. Knew exactly what we were doing. And still went through with it. I leaned back in my chair, letting the full weight of their admission settle. No rationalizing. No minimizing. Just the truth, finally laid bare. What is it you want from me now? Forgiveness, Nicole said through tears. A chance to repair the damage. Zachary added. Help, said Howard simply. I studied each of them again. My daughter, sharp-minded, but ethically lost. My son-in-law, who had learned that threatening those who once supported you comes at a steep cost. The aging couple, who had chosen comfort over principle. If I were to even consider re-establishing a relationship, I said slowly, it would come with strict conditions. Their eyes lit up, hope flickering like fragile candlelight. Full transparency moving forward. No more plotting behind my back. And an understanding that trust doesn't magically return, it has to be rebuilt, slowly, with consistent behavior. They nodded, quickly, gratefully. But first, I said, you need to grasp what your betrayal really cost, not just financially, but emotionally. I walked to my office and returned with Nicole's old phone. The following afternoon they returned, this time more rehearsed, more polished. From the window, I watched them approach. Nicole carried a bouquet of elegant white lilies, the same kind I'd brought to her mother's funeral 15 years earlier. Their movements were deliberate. Nicole's tears arrived on cue, well before she knocked. Zachary stood just behind her, posture carefully humble, head tilted at an angle designed to convey contrition. Another performance was about to begin. But I'd already seen the rehearsal. When I opened the door, Nicole's orchestrated breakdown was already in motion. Daddy, she sobbed, pressing a bouquet into my hands with the precision of a stage actress hitting her mark. I love you so much. I'm so sorry for everything we did. The others followed her in, moving like mourners in a funeral march. Zachary's apology landed right on cue. Larry, I've gone over my words every night. What I said to you, what I threatened. I finally get it now. I failed to respect the man who gave us everything. Howard and Kinsley trailed behind, playing their supporting roles as the distressed, concerned elders, genuinely shaken but still enabling the spectacle. We just want to see the family back together, Kinsley murmured. Life's too short for this bitterness and division. Nicole dropped onto the sofa in what looked like spontaneous collapse, but every movement felt calculated. I know we hurt you deeply, she said through fresh tears. But I swear, I'll be the daughter you always deserved. I will fix this. As she spoke, I noticed her phone angled carefully between the cushions, its screen pointed toward us. The red recording indicator blinked faintly, but it was unmistakably there. Tell me more about how you plan to make things right, I said, settling into my seat with deliberate distance. Nicole continued, her tone flowing with the rhythm of someone who had practiced this speech many times. I see now that we took advantage of your kindness. I understand how much you've given, how much you've sacrificed. I want to earn your love again. Zachary gave a solemn nod, but then glanced at his watch, quick, habitual, and revealing. I'm ready to prove it every day, he said. Then checked the time again, even as he claimed this was the most important moment of his life. The contrast between their words and behavior was striking. Nicole's tears looked real, but her recording setup exposed the performance. Zachary's contrition felt recited, broken up by time checks that betrayed a distracted mind. "Howard Kinsley," I said, "what's your view on rebuilding trust within a family?" Howard cleared his throat, his response cautious. "We believe in second chances. People make errors in judgment. But even when mistakes are coordinated, even calculated, families should find a way forward." The implication lingered heavily in the room. Nicole adjusted her phone's position, just slightly, but enough to notice if you were paying attention. "We do regret how it was planned," Zachary added, another glance at his watch. "Leaving you out was wrong. We understand that now. Do you?" I asked, locking eyes with Nicole. "What exactly do you understand about planning and coordination?" Her carefully composed demeanor cracked, just briefly. "I understand that we made decisions as a group that hurt you personally. And that was selfish. And unfair." Her answer was too smooth, the kind of polished phrasing that sounded lifted from a self-help blog or a therapy workbook. "Nicole, you seem preoccupied with something on your phone." She stiffened. "My phone? No. I'm totally focused on this. On us. On healing." But her involuntary glance toward the device told me everything. She was recording, most likely to create a curated clip for legal leverage or social media sympathy. "Zachary," I said, turning to him, "you've checked your watch half a dozen times. Are you late for something?" His cheeks flushed. No, this is the most important thing to me right now. It's just a nervous habit." The falsehoods were piling up fast now, slipping past each other like cards in a marked deck. 40 years in business had taught me how to spot real intention buried under sweet talk. This was performance art, repentance in costume. "I appreciate you all coming," I said, rising to my feet. "This has been very informative." Nicole's face twisted in alarm. "Informative? Dad, what do you mean?" "We're apologizing. We're trying to fix this." "No," I said. "You're staging a performance, with a hidden recording running in the background, hoping to control the narrative if things don't go your way." The impact hit like a slap. Nicole's hand flew to her phone in instinctive defense, confirming everything. I didn't mean. You placed your phone to record the moment you sat down." Zachary checked the time 6 times during his heartfelt speech. "These apologies? Rehearsed. Scripted." Zachary's expression hardened, frustration overtaking his mask of remorse. "You're being paranoid. We came here from the heart." "No, you came here with a new scheme." "Because your last one failed." Silence dropped over the room like a curtain. Kinsley wept quietly into her hands. "I had hoped," I said, "that losing everything might teach you to tell the difference between sincere regret and calculated damage control." "Please, Dad," Nicole said, tears now replaced by desperation. "We have nothing left." "No, you have exactly what you chose when you conspired to betray me under the guise of love." I walked to the front door and opened it with intention. "Before you go," I said, easing back into my chair, "there's one final thing you need to truly grasp about what you've lost." I reached for her phone, retrieved earlier from my office drawer, and unlocked it using her birthdate. 3 weeks had gone by, paced like a series of notarized decisions, deliberate, final, and beyond reversal. During that time, I finished what their betrayal had begun, the complete and deliberate dismantling of every connection between us. On a brisk February morning, Michael Richardson brought the last of the legal documents. "All transfers complete," he said, laying the thick folder down. "85,000 recovered and deposited. All personal guarantees revoked and processed. You hold no financial obligations to any of them. Estate plans revised per your instructions. Primary beneficiaries now listed as Margaret and the Detroit Children's Hospital. Family members explicitly excluded, with documentation on file." There was a kind of satisfaction in the legal closure that emotional wins never quite deliver. Each page was a reflection of their choices, and the consequences that followed. Margaret kept me updated. They had moved to a small Ohio town outside Cleveland. Howard's brother ran a trailer park there. 5 adults crammed into a single-wide mobile home. Nicole juggling 2 part-time jobs. Zachary unable to find steady work due to his record. It was the natural aftermath of their decisions. Cause and effect without interference. Then, on February 1st, a letter arrived. Nicole's handwriting, once precise, now trembled with desperation. The envelope was thin, the kind of cheap stationery sold in discount stores. No return address. I'd opened it over coffee, the kind I liked, no compromises, no one else's taste to consider. Dad, I know you probably don't want to hear from us, but I'm trying anyway. We're living in Uncle Bob's trailer now. Zachary, me, Howard, Kinsley, and Bob's family, everyone packed into one mobile home. The kids sleep on air mattresses. I'm working 2 jobs, one at a gas station and another at the grocery store. It barely covers food. Zachary can't get hired because of his record. Howard's blood pressure meds cost more than we can afford. Kinsley's arthritis is getting worse with the stress. I'm not asking for much. Just enough to rent a small apartment so the older ones can have some comfort. Maybe $500 a month. I know I made mistakes. But we're family. Please, Dad. We've learned our lesson. Love. Nicole. I read it twice, searching for the usual undertones of manipulation. But this time, it was just need, raw and unfiltered. And yet, it still carried the same core misunderstanding as always. She believed this was about punishment, not consequences. That family ties excused choices. That I existed, as I always had, to bail them out of situations they created. I folded the letter and placed it with the rest of the legal records. No reply was needed. After decades of supporting entitled dependents, silence felt like a fitting response. Later that day, I called Margaret. "How's life now that you're free of all the drama?" she asked. "Better than expected," I said. "I'm thinking of dinner at that little Italian place downtown next week. Want to join me?" "I'd love to. It's about time you started enjoying yourself again. It really is." After hanging up, I made other calls. David, my former business partner, wanted to talk about new ventures. Robert from next door had told me about a community theater group. There were hiking clubs, book meetups, travel groups. Entire networks I'd ignored while pouring energy into other people's chaos. A flyer for the senior singles groups sat on my desk. At 62, dating felt both terrifying and oddly exhilarating. But the idea of connecting with someone who valued companionship over credit cards, that was worth exploring. That evening, I walked through my house and noticed how the space felt different. The dining room, once used to scheme behind my back, could now host dinner parties filled with laughter. The guest rooms, once occupied by freeloaders, could welcome visitors who came for the relationship, not the resources. Justice hadn't needed drama or revenge. It had only required ending the flow of support to people who mistook kindness for duty. They taught me something crucial. There's a difference between family you're born into and family you build through mutual respect. Some people earn your trust. Others forfeit it. Next month's calendar was already filling up. Theater night with Margaret. Strategy talks with David. Trail hikes with the outdoor group. Activities chosen not out of guilt or obligation, but because I actually wanted to be there. The house felt lighter. The air cleaner. For the first time in years, I was building a life shaped by my own goals, not weighed down by other people's crises. At 62, I was finally free to find out what real, reciprocal relationships looked like. The next chapter had just begun. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments.